Hi, I'm Anne-Laure. I'm very happy to be part of this post exhibit, and I wish I could be there with you today at the Inglewood Foreigners Gallery for the artist talk instead of sitting here in the Netherlands. But thanks to technology, I'm still going to be able to chat a bit with you about the Autin series, which I believe hangs on the wall to your right. I'll start with the backstory that prompted me to create this work. One morning last April, I was in bed with a headache that wouldn't go away. And then I started to feel tingling in my legs and in my arms, and my left arm became incredibly hot, and suddenly I felt something pop in my brain. And right then, paralysis took me over like a wave. I couldn't move, I couldn't even open my eyes, I couldn't call for help. I was locked in. My body no longer answered to my mind's command. If you had seen me then, I probably would have seemed asleep, but on the inside I was very much awake, and I was in motion somehow, trying to escape. It only lasted a short while, but it was the most frightening moment of my life. And this incident made me contemplate my mortality in a very real way. In the following weeks I felt very anxious, despite an encouraging neurological diagnosis of migraine accompagnée. But I needed to exercise the angst that I had felt, and I did that for my work. Now, over the past few years, I've been increasingly interested in contrasting juxtaposition, and especially with the realization that opposites are not always mutually exclusive. For instance, you can be strong and vulnerable at the same time, or an immoral story can have some beauty to it. What fascinated me in being locked in was that I was completely still while feeling in motion. So I set out to highlight those two opposite states of being happening at the same time through the photography. And the use of long exposure times, for instance, allowed me to convey movement depicting the agitation of my spirit. And then I combined multiple exposures digitally to portray the paralysis of my body concurrent with the activity of my mind. Now, the original captures are digital, but clearly you're not looking at digital prints. I believe digital prints would have been too sharp and crisp for the work, and so instead I decided to create Dyke Browns prints. Now, Dyke Browns is an antique alternative process dating from 1889, and it's a contact printing method which predates darkroom printing like we know it. For this work, I use a thick French cotton rag called Reeves BFK. I coat it with a solution containing ferric ammonium citrate, tartaric acid, and silver nitrate. The coating is done with a brush, which gives those distinctive edges to the work. Once the paper is coated, it needs to dry for a few hours. I create and print on special transparency paper negatives from the digital files that I have. I have to manipulate the original digital captures to create negatives because Dyke Browns will collapse contrast a lot. So I have to make my photographs very contrasty, unpleasantly so that when I print from that negative, they look normal again. It's a very iterative process to get it just right in every single part of the image. The negative itself is the same size as the final print. I then lay it on top of the coated paper and sandwich it tightly between two glass plates. I expose the paper and negative to UV light, and because I live in Holland where the sun rarely shines, I built myself a UV light box. When the right exposure has been achieved, and for this series, exposure times vary between 13 and 15 minutes, I peel off the negative and the exposed print is revealed. Because the solution is iron-based, the print comes out orange-red. After 3 different baths, the print is finally put in a sodium thiosulfate fixer, and that is when it turns to the rich dark chocolate brown color that is typical of Van Dyke's. The total elapsed time between coating and hanging the print to dry in the humidity conditions that I work in is about 4 hours. Also, during the half a day of drying time, the colors turn even darker, which adds another guessing component to the image production. Even though the process isn't extremely complicated, it's still rather labor intensive and prone to giving varying results. The series is a limited edition of 5, but because this is a hand printing process, every single print truly is unique. It was very important for me to produce this work this way, despite the weeks and the months in the darkroom. The softness of the Dyke Browns really complement the work. It adds to the surreal quality of it. Also, I believe there was a healing component in it for me in making it. It's an extremely personal process which I felt compelled to do because I am sharing an extremely personal experience. So I hope this has given you some more insights into the work and that you can now look at the prints and enjoy them even more with this added knowledge. I would also like to invite you to perhaps consider them as an allegory for the connection between our minds and our bodies, a strange and obscure connection that we rarely deeply truly contemplate, except maybe on the days that it stops working. Thank you.